Good morning, everyone. I'm Chris Gopalakrishnan. Welcome to the third day of the CII India Innovation Summit, the 17th edition. I hope you are having fun attending the various sessions. I attended some of them yesterday and day first today, and I found wonderful speakers, great set of interactions, and lots of questions from the audience also. So keep it interactive. Continue to engage, continue to learn. Uh, on day three, we are starting off with the future of communication. With COVID around, I don't need to tell anyone why communication is important. That has been our lifeline. That is how we have conducted ourselves, business life in the last 18, 20 months, whether we like it or not. And we have one of the tallest leaders in the communication space with Dave West, who is President Asia Pacific, Japan, and Greater China for Cisco. Cisco, as you know, is one of those companies that I can probably say, created the modern communication infrastructure, connecting all of us together, all the way from individual to small businesses to large enterprises to very large networks and the backbone of the internet itself. So Cisco is there at all stages. Cisco also has built products and applications on top of that for keeping us connected, and they probably may touch upon some of these things in his interactions. It will be an interactive session. Dave has a 20 plus year career with Cisco and 25 years of experience in the ICT industry, and he is also a former Marine officer, a graduate from the Virginia Military Institute. So, a interesting person to interact with, and I'm looking forward to this. So, Dave, I will start off by asking you, the question which is in top of everybody's mind, right? Enormous change in our lives, how we conduct our lives, all of these things. Businesses have changed in the last 18 months because of the COVID pandemic. Technology has played an important role. Communication technology especially has played an important role, keeping us connected. I can say keeping the world going, actually. So when you look back, what does this mean for innovation?
Well, Chris, first and foremost, thank you so much for having me here and for all the guests participating in this session. I hope everyone is well, your family is safe, and so are your loved ones. And I know it's been a tough 18 months for almost all of us on this conference. But the one thing that has come out that you may say is a positive from what we've seen through the pandemic is the innovation. And we've seen a tremendous amount of innovation and digitization that probably wouldn't have happened for a decade around the globe. And so, we've seen digitization happen in leaps and bounds. And I think what it's shown us is that anything that should be digitized or could be digitized will be driven towards some form of digitization. And businesses are putting so much more focus into their digital transformation. Pre-pandemic, digital wasn't really a boardroom conversation. Through the pandemic, it became a boardroom conversation. And it didn't matter if you're the largest SP or an enterprise or even a small business, to reach out to your buyers and your customers, digital became at the forefront of everything that you did. And it was interesting. We collected a few statistics, and 75% of enterprises globally accelerated digital efforts and innovation during the pandemic. And we'll talk about some of that innovation in a little bit. 74% of CIOs around the globe said digital projects that would have normally taken years to get through the board, get approval, find funding for, happened in a matter of weeks. And so as a global community, although the pandemic has been devastating at some levels, we've learned so much in regards to innovation and technology.
I couldn't agree more with you, Dave. Clearly, if we can look at a silver lining, right, in this, dark phase, that's the adoption of digital. That's the transformation that has happened. So, what are some of the key technology trends that you see that are going to shape the future in the next 5-10 years?
It's interesting. There's so many of them that have really surfaced. We've seen rapid adoption of cloud, and probably everyone on this call talks about cloud, has heard cloud, has probably had 3 or 4 cloud conversations over the last 3 days. But we've seen an adoption because of speed and agility and maybe ease of use and simplicity. Cloud is at the forefront, and it's not just moving workloads to the cloud. It's SaaS, software as a service, where just because people can't get to data centers or on site, it provided a very fast vehicle for them to be able to work and to do business. Applications, which at a point pre-pandemic were sort of an extension of the business, became the business. And modern application design became at the forefront of everything, because if you couldn't run cloud native applications, it hindered you in the ability to be able to reach out and touch as many people as possible. The big one is the shift to hybrid work. And I know everyone's probably working at home right now and wants to be in the office, can't be in the office, all of those things. And so the shift to hybrid work is at the forefront of everything, and the future of work and what it looks like in terms of how companies do business and support employees. Security is at the forefront of everything we do. And security moving to the cloud, and then be able to support people, devices, and things, regardless of where they are, kind of changed in the landscape of the pandemic. We've seen a big transition to things like 5G and Wi-Fi 6 at the forefront of many discussions. And then pre-pandemic, lots of discussion on the edge, but as people thought about how do you provide cloud services, both private and public, and then begin to deliver services to users regardless of where they are, the edge becomes very important. So those are really at the forefront, I think, of what has surfaced and become very important to businesses around the world through the pandemic.
So adoption of cloud, the applications that are built on top of SaaS model, the shift to hybrid, security, and I can't emphasize more how important security is for all of us as more of our life becomes digital. The transition to newer standards in communications. On the edge, workloads moving to the edge, etc., especially when it comes to where the data is going to reside and where the work will get done. Great insights, Dave. I want to pick up on one thing you mentioned about hybrid. Actually, I think every business leader is now grappling. People who are attending this event are grappling with this issue of the future of work itself. How are we going to conduct our businesses in the future? What is the role of office spaces? What does it mean for real estate? what does it mean in practical terms for companies? How much time are we going to spend at the office? How we're going to conduct our meetings? Every aspect of it. So, what is your perspective, Dave, on the future of work, future of office?
And it's a great question, Chris. And I think it's a trend, and it's a business discussion that I almost have every day with companies, and they're all trying to understand what this means for them and their employees, and how they create inclusive culture, and what the workplace needs to look like in the office. So first, it's all of us. We're all probably at home. And we want to be able to work from home and ensure that we can maintain privacy, data sovereignty, we have connectivity, that a connection that we have on this stays up and get visibility. So the flexible, inclusive, secure work environment for all of our employees and everyone around the world is absolutely critical. And so, making sure that you can enable your employees to work from anywhere, and do it in a way, since this may be the place that they work or wherever they are, that they do more often than being in the office. And so providing the tools, the technologies, the services, the visibility, the privacy, the security, all of those things are absolutely fundamental. So that's number one. Number two is, if we have all of these workers now remote, and also workers going into the office, how do you create a collaborative environment from the office to be able to connect? Because before, everyone would come to the office. The expectation you have a meeting, everyone would show up in the conference room, and you have that meeting. Now there may be a few in the conference room, there may be a few at home, and there may be a few at other places. And so you've got to create a very collaborative environment that allows people to connect and engage in ways that they used to do physically, personally, and being together. And so that's the number two challenge. So how do you redefine the office? You need insights, and you need visibility, you need rich collaboration tools. I think the video presence will be very, very important. And then the third piece, which I think is maybe the hardest piece, is culture. Because how do you empower your employees to know that they can work from anywhere? And then how do you create an inclusive environment so that employees that are working from the office are treated the same way as employees that are working from home? Everyone is given fair access and fair capabilities. And so that inclusivity is part of that culture is probably the hardest part of all of this. How leadership handles people working remotely. Their belief systems maybe need to change. We used to believe that people could only do good work if they come to work. And so, your belief system has to change. You can do good work from anywhere. And in fact, if you don't have to commute 2 hours each day, you may be able to do better, more productive work remotely. So that's what I think needs to happen in this hybrid work environment. And that's what I'm seeing a lot of.
Right, Dave. Very interesting. The digital first world, or the digital world that we've all now embraced completely. The transition has been, I think, almost complete. I don't have children living with me at home, but I think even children will wonder, right? Why is my father sitting at home, and is he working, not working, right? All of those, you talked about culture, right? So our own perception of our life, right? Previously, it was completely separated or demarcated, right? This is my home, this is my office, and I try not to bring work home. Now it's work is all at home, right? There is no boundary. How has your own personal life changed in the last 18 months, if I may ask?
It's changed, and I've had to think differently. I even had to think about my personal wellness and well-being, because it was almost impossible, and it has been very hard to separate that personal life with my work life. There's coexistence, and I don't even say balance anymore, because I know if I say balance, I won't achieve the goal. I think there's just has to be the symbiotic relationship and this integration, and you need to figure out how to best integrate. And for me, it's been, how do you integrate? There was a point in time where, I was home, my wife was home, my kids were home, school was at home, everything was happening in the same small space within a small apartment when I was in Japan. And it's, all of it converges. And so just, I think for us, especially, is to recognize the incredible amount of stress it creates in people's lives. And so, for me, it's stepping back and really having empathy and understanding what's going on, and really starting to consider things like, mental health and wellness of employees and people, not just employees, but children and spouses. Everybody is kind of stuck in this environment. So those are things that we'll need to be thinking about as we take this next step into what the future of work looks like.
Clearly, and I think this is something probably we have to think about when we talk about hybrid work and things like that. I want to come back to a point that you brought up in the beginning, and you brought up again when we talked about the digital first world. Um, Cybersecurity, right? It becomes very, very important at the individual level, at the business level, and I think at the nation state level also, cybersecurity becomes very important. So how how one should look at cybersecurity? How should a business, of course, Cisco, um, you know, creates technology, but how should a user organization look at cybersecurity? What is your perspective on cybersecurity?
It's a really great question, Chris, and I think it's very relevant today, because I think cyber should be at the forefront of any of the innovation digital decisions companies make. If there's one thing that will slow or stop or prevent a digital transformation, it's cyber. It's threats. It's all of the things that come in on a digital landscape. So I think cyber has got to be at the forefront. It can't be bolted on. It has to be thought about throughout the entire process of deploying digital technologies. And most people think about cybersecurity as protecting endpoints, protecting devices, protecting the enterprise. The way I think, that you should think about cyber is it's everything. It's from supply chain. It's from the devices. It's from the components that are used in those devices. It's from maintaining a secure chain of custody from when you buy to when products are delivered. And then from there, it's how you design and build cyber and security as part of your overall architecture. And so not bolting it on, because if you bolt it on, there's always going to be holes. And developing a thorough architecture that defends, and then going through risk assessment and planning, just in case something happens. What do you do? How do you respond? So it really needs to be well thought out, part of the overall processes that a company uses. And always prepare for contingencies and what could happen. So that's sort of what I think about when I think about cyber. It's in everything, and you need to think about it that way. And as you defend and protect and want to do business, know that there's always going to be risks. And so what you want to do is you want to minimize those risks and make sure that you've thought through all the contingencies just in case.
Yeah, very nicely put, Dave. Because people, as you said, think about security on your desktop or security on your server. What you're saying is that that's not sufficient. You also need to know the entire digital chain. You need to know where you purchase your components. You need to know the supplier that you have, where they bring their components from, the entire supply chain. uh, I think it's a wonderful. And then the point you make about uh, you know this has to be a continuous vigil. There has to be periodic audits, and you need to keep up to date with what software you have, what hardware you have. It's actually become a major task for any organization, and everybody needs to be aware of cybersecurity. Even if you have just a mobile phone, you need to be aware of what the issues could be. That's very well put. I want to now switch to more of a you know uh, developing country perspective, India perspective. India still has large number of people who are not connected, who don't have access to internet, um, and and they don't get the benefits of this new world that we are all fortunate to be living. So, um, you know, what is your perspective on both access to connectivity, access to communication, access to internet in an affordable manner? Dave, what is your perspective on that?
Thank you for that, Chris, and it's a great question. And I if you know anything for the audience here about Cisco, our purpose as a company is to create an inclusive future for all, and to try to give everybody access and capabilities to the internet economy and to connectivity. And I think no place in the world from Cisco does it better than in India. And personally, I am incredibly proud of our Cisco India team, because they wake up every day with this purpose of providing and being socially responsible in a country like India, to provide access and capabilities at an affordable rate with the right value, to allow small, medium-sized businesses, large enterprises, and public sector customers. So for us as a company, Chris, it's at our core. It's who we are, and it is our purpose is to try to make this a reality. And I know it's not easy. And so for us, it's how do we partner with the right telecommunications operators, with the right systems integrators, with government entities, with NGOs and others, to help provide access and provide inclusive use of technology, no matter where you are in India, in Bangalore, in Delhi, or in a rural community. We are fundamentally committed to trying to make that happen for as many people as we possibly can.
Very well said. Inclusive connectivity, affordable connectivity, at the core of what you believe. Dave, very nice interaction with you today. One a last question, just a single sentence answer. As we come out of this pandemic, if there is one message you want to provide to the business leaders who are participating in this, what would that message be?
I think the thing that we need to do as business leaders is we need to work together to help provide what you talked about, Chris, that inclusive capabilities for everybody in India, and change our views and our cultures and partner to make that happen.
So thank you, Dave. This is the opening session for the track on future of communications. Communications is what is binding us together more than ever. Our transition to digital has accelerated. There are several technologies that are enabling this to happen, and they touched upon a few of them. Cybersecurity becomes front and central, and cybersecurity is an all-inclusive look at security, including, the supplier network, the supply chains that we have. And lastly, the need as business leaders to create an inclusive society. Again, communication plays an important role in creating that inclusive society. So thank you, Dave. I hope we can do this next time physically. We can sit across a table and have a dialogue like this. But thank you very much for taking your time and sharing with our audience here for this CII India Innovation Summit, your perspectives on the future of communication. I can see that you're very optimistic about that future, and thank you for that optimistic perspective of the future of communication. So
thank you, Chris.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for the session, and it was an engaging session. Just 30 minutes, we've had an interactive one. Thank you once again. I also invite for the next session, which is scheduled at 10:30 on future of governance in a secure, connected world. Thank you. Thank you once again.
So we'll go backstage now.
Yes, sir.